Good afternoon. My name is David Rodborn. I'm with the Center for Ethical Business Cultures, and we are delighted to welcome you today to what is the culmination of a major project here at the center. I think we'll have a few additional folks walking in as we get going here, so I want to just cover one or two housekeeping notes. As you are looking, if you're looking for a restroom out the door, down the hall to your left is where you'll find those. We will be taking a break later this afternoon, and I'll go over the game plan for the afternoon to give you an idea of when that will occur. For those of you who happened to notice as we came in, we had an image scroll up on the screen that shows some of the images from the book that we've are proud to release and publish through Cambridge University Press. It has an image gallery of over 119 images and some excellent narration to go with those, along with the text that is one of a kind in terms of a history of corporate responsibility. The Center for Ethical Business Cultures started 35 years ago. In 1977, 78, with two meetings at what was a conference center here in the Twin Cities called Spring Hill. And business leaders gathered there to consider how they would continue their own commitments to active involvement in dealing with societal and community issues. And they were concerned a little bit about the new generation of leaders coming into their companies, how they would pass those commitments and those values on to that next generation. And they set up a couple of organizations, the Minnesota Business Partnership, but also what was then called the Minnesota Project on Corporate Responsibility. And we actually have its initial director with us today, Don Emsland. So you look back over 35 years and you recognize that the center was dealing with questions that had to do with the purpose of business, the role of business in society, and the values and standards that represented high-level corporate leadership and corporate citizenship. The center has been working on that kind of those tasks for the past 35 years. In the 80s, the center did a lot of work around stakeholder management and specific policy issues that helped business leaders engage in everything from education reform to diversity and many others. We saw the 1990s open with a leadership effort here at the center and with our business colleagues to develop something called the Minnesota Principles. And the center's president at the time, Bob McGregor, is with us, and those principles articulated responsibilities and standards for business to pursue when it came to various stakeholders. And those principles later became part of an international statement of principles called the Co-Roundtable Principles for Business. Later in the decade, the center published a book focused on Minnesota businesses called The Culture of Corporate Citizenship, and tried to capture some of the stories from our major corporations about their commitment to involvement and leadership in the community. And over the past decade, we have done considerable work with major companies as well as with our academic partners on ethics and ethical leadership, and worked with leadership teams on how do you get an ethical culture up and running, and how do you sustain it? How do you keep that to be front and center in terms of an organization's values and behavior? Today's program arises directly out of that mission around assisting business leaders in creating ethical cultures and that history of corporate citizenship here at CEBC. We wish to take this opportunity to express our thanks and appreciation to Halloran Philanthropies and its founder, Harry R. Halloran Jr., who is based in Philadelphia, who provided substantial financial support to the university, the college, and the center in order to take on this project to write a one-of-a-kind history of corporate citizenship, as well as to do other initiatives here at the university. Mr. Halloran's support enabled us to pull together a really outstanding team of scholars. And it's been my privilege to work with them over the past 3 years. Actually, we were talking about this morning about maybe it was 4 years. And each one of them, I think, would tell you and may share with you today that even though they have worked in and around this topic of corporate responsibility, corporate social responsibility, corporate citizenship, whatever term you choose, they each learned a great deal in the course of doing this history. One in particular said that, now I know why no one ever did it before. It's so big, so complex, it's hard to get your arms around. And we're pretty proud of the effort that comes to fruition today. And there will be books outside during the reception this afternoon for you to look at and to purchase if you'd like. We've organized the afternoon into 4 components. We're very fortunate to have Ken Powell with us today from General Mills to talk about the General Mills experience and how they fit within this overall history of corporate responsibility. He was very kind and wrote the foreword for the history as well. Second, we're going to hear from our team of scholars. And Ken Goodpaster, who's here at the University of St. Thomas, will moderate that. That's going to be about a 2-hour block, but we're going to put a break right in the middle. So around 3:20, you'll have a break, and we'll be able to relax a little bit for a few minutes and then have plenty of opportunity for questions and discussions after that. And then we're going to do another panel at 4:30, and we're lucky to have 3 individuals who've got a tremendous amount of experience with different companies here in Minnesota, and they're going to talk a little bit about that experience, but also reflect on how that is changing over time and what they see as they look ahead. So we'll do that, and then at 5:30 we'll have a reception and invite you to gather and interact with our other guests and with our authors outside. All of the profiles on our speakers are in your programs if you have one, and you can look a little bit more deeply into what their backgrounds are. Before I turn over the podium to Ron James, who's the center's president and CEO, I want to thank my colleagues. You don't pull something like this together without the real hard work of everyone on the team. And Judy Olson, Terry Hastings, Bob Shoemake, and Doug Jondal have been invaluable in helping us pull this together this afternoon. So I'll close by inviting you to keep 3 questions in mind as you listen to our presentations. As you reflect on the history of corporate responsibility, what stands out for you as most important? What in your mind really makes a statement? Second, as you look at business today, what evidence do you see that we're making progress, that corporate responsibility has become a central tenet of business practice? And finally, what future do you envision for corporate responsibility in business in the years ahead? What do you imagine will change? What challenges do you see ahead? So I think those 3 questions will help focus our attention on our speakers and what they have to say, and we look forward to hearing that. Ron, I'd like to turn it over to you, and we'll move on.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, David. And let me echo David's comments in terms of welcoming you to this afternoon's program. David gave you a quick history of the center and where it's come from. There's one consistent theme that's rung true throughout the center's life, though, and it's been after answering this question, to whom and for what purpose does business exist? And clearly, this book continues on the journey of getting answers to that question. We're delighted to have with us today a leader who can kick off the conversation because he has exemplified wrestling with this question of to whom and for what purpose does business exist. Not just the leader, but his company as a result of a number of leaders have wrestled with this same question. Testament to their ability to be recognized for their efforts in this area is the fact that General Mills this past spring was recognized by the Reputation Institute's 2012 Rep Track Pulse as the leading company in the country when it comes to reputation. 5 themes were actually measured. General Mills finished number 1 when it comes to thinking about citizenship. In addition to that, the company is scored in terms of its products and services, governance, and leadership inside the organization. Again, all of that is embodied by our speaker today. Ken Powell joined General Mills in 1979. I won't go through all of the detail in the program. You've got it before you. Suffice it to say, he spent about a third of his career globally, giving him a unique perspective to look at both local needs, what does it mean to be a good local citizen, but also what does it mean to be a global citizen. Ken became Chief Operating Officer of General Mills in 2006, and he was elected Chief Executive Officer in 2007 and Chairman in 2008. The list of recognitions and accolades that his company has received is far too long to go through today, but it is consistently recognized as one of the best places to work, one of the best places at serving community, and one of the best places at developing talent and leadership. Please join me in welcoming today our keynote speaker, Ken Powell.
Thank you very much, Ron, for that very, very kind introduction. And before I do anything, let me just give thanks to the Center for Ethical Business Cultures for all the good work that you do and have done over many years, and also for the completion of this project, which, as you know, we feel strongly about. We feel it's important, and we think it's very, very timely. So thank you. And I am quite honored to be here to help you celebrate the launch of the book. So, as you know, I was offered the opportunity to write the foreword, and I jumped at that chance, not only because the topic is really very, very core to General Mills culture, but also because I believe that as leaders, we have the responsibility to define and to set the bar for what corporate responsibility is and what it can be. And you're going to hear that word responsibility from me a number of times today, and I'm sure over the course of the afternoon. And we think, isn't that what leadership is about? We're responsible to our shareholders, to our employees, to our consumers, our customers, and our communities. We're responsible to the current generation that we're working with now. We're very responsible to those who came before us, and we feel also a keen set of responsibility to the people who are going to follow, our children and their children. So if that feels like a heavy weight, then I think we just need to remember that those who came before us in many ways did even more. For General Mills, we reflect that those who came before created the innovation that we leverage today. They built many of the plants that we run. They built many of the brands that we market. They really built the trust that General Mills relies on every day. And when you become the CEO of a company like General Mills, you quickly get a very keen sense of all of this. You have a very keen sense of the responsibilities that come with this job. So for us, corporate responsibility is not just an expectation of leaders and of leadership. In many ways, it is the backbone of our culture. And as the CEO, it's up to me to understand that commitment and to, over the course of my period of time, to be honored to sit in this office to make sure that I figure out ways to advance that commitment. Now, we trace our roots in the community back to 1866, when the man with the lovely name of Cadwallader Washburn built his first flour mill on the banks of the Mississippi River. Charles Pillsbury bought his first mill in 1869 on the opposite bank of the Mississippi River, and together with leaders like Washburn and his associate John Crosby, Charles Pillsbury helped make Minneapolis the flour milling capital of the world. I don't know if anyone has heard of the great mill explosion of 1878, but it was legendary. People wrote songs about it, newspaper headlines covered it. It left an indelible mark on this community. And milling was indeed an explosive business in those days. And one day in 1878, Washburn's mill, which at the time was the largest single flour mill in the world, exploded. The explosion leveled several city blocks in the middle of Minneapolis. Debris from the mill was found over a mile away, and as it was said and written, there literally was not one brick left standing on another. So, amidst this tremendous ruin, his investment literally having gone up in smoke, it said that Washburn immediately began outlining a new, even larger mill. But he also knew in 1878 that he had a responsibility to the families of the 18 workers who were killed in that explosion, to the children orphaned, to his employees, to his community, and extraordinarily for the time, even to his competitors. So he made the milling industry safer. He found a technology to pull flour dust from the air into filters that would make milling operations much safer. It was the kind of technological advance that would give his company, could have given the company, a competitive advantage in the industry. But what did Washburn and his partner, so-called Honest John Crosby, do with the advantage? Well, they convened a meeting of the other millers of Minnesota at the Millers' Table in the Minneapolis Club, a table that still exists at the club today, and he gave that technology to all of his competitors. All mills and all workers would be safer. He also established a fund for workers' families and built an orphanage, the legacy of which still exists in our community today as the Washburn Center for Children, providing mental health support to 1,800 children and their families each year, and celebrating this year, I believe, its 100th anniversary. They're in the middle of a capital campaign, so be generous when they come to you. We made a lead gift. It was corporate responsibility way before its time, in an era before the internet, the 24-hour news cycle, before the advent of NGOs and activists. Today, of course, companies face even higher expectations. The stakeholders of today, shareholders, employees, customers, consumers, communities, all expect more than just job creation and financial performance from companies. And those expectations in an age of social media, instant information on demand, will only continue to rise. Some say that corporate responsibility is now table stakes for the business leader of today. It's something you have to live with, so you might as well get used to it. But at General Mills, we see corporate social responsibility indeed as a responsibility, but also as something much more. We see it as an enabler, as a strategic source of competitive advantage, as a value and a strategy. General Mills' mission is nourishing lives. Through our products, we strive to make consumers' lives healthier, easier, and through all the variety and multiplicity of products that we offer, richer. We also strive to nourish lives by making our communities stronger and the planet healthier. And we have policies to guide us and programs to advance the mission, and I'm sure that many of you in your organizations have the same. For example, General Mills has improved the health profile of over 2/3 of our U.S. retail sales volume since 2005. And in fiscal 2012 alone, the company improved nearly 16% of its sales volume by adding whole grains and fibers and calcium, or reducing calories, sugar, sodium, and trans fat. So that's corporate responsibility. It's also good business, and I think that one's pretty clear, because the products that we improve and the healthier we make our portfolio, the faster it grows. So that, I think, is in many ways is an easy one. But the connection becomes a little less clear when you're measuring voluntarism or corporate philanthropy. General Mills has helped to build our communities for decades. Today, we contribute nearly 5% of our pre-tax profits philanthropically, and last year alone, our total giving exceeded $140 million. We've been a leader in corporate philanthropy for more than 100 years, and you'll hear later today about a study we helped sponsor that looks to the future of corporate philanthropy. This is part of who we are. It's part of what defines corporate social responsibility for General Mills. We've generated more than $475 million to support America's K-12 schools through our Box Tops for Education program, We've advanced literacy through spoonfuls of stories on cereal boxes. We're the national presenting sponsor of the Susan Komen Race for the Cure, and we've generated more than $34 million for the breast cancer cause since 1997 through that initiative and other programs like Save Lids to Save Lives. And that is corporate responsibility, but it is also, I will tell you, good business, because through these programs, we deepen our relationship with our consumers who care about their kids' education or the threat of breast cancer in their families. About 83% of our U.S. employees volunteer in their communities. That's nearly 3 times the average reported in a survey of Fortune 500 companies. And yes, we give employees the time to volunteer, even during the workday. And we do it because we think this experience makes them a better leader. So that's corporate responsibility, but we would argue it strengthens our company, it strengthens loyalty to the company, it's good for business. We started using recycled paper packaging in the 30s. It was environmentally friendly then, and it saved some money. Today, we're one of the largest users of recycled content paperboard in America. It's the right thing to do. We also know it's smart business. We're preserving and protecting the planet both for our business and for the next generation who will follow us as leaders. We have a term at General Mills for this way of looking at our business, and it's called holistic value creation. It's a lens that may be new to some, but in short, we look at business problems and then we look for solutions that have the potential to create value everywhere, holistically, not just for the company, but for our consumers, our customers, our shareholders, and the community. And let me give you an example. In China, we make and sell a snack product called Bugles. And many of you may know that. That's the one you bought as a kid and you put them on your fingertips and you did that with them. That thing, that sells like crazy all over the world. Bugles are made from corn, but in China the corn simply was not up to our standards. So General Mills China created a solution, and I do mean created. We went to farming communities in the north of China and offered to contract with the local farmers to grow corn exclusively for us. We hired an agronomist, brought him to the community to help teach the farmers how to grow more and better corn. And I will tell you, in the beginning, these farmers were wary. This sounds too good to be true, but a few agreed to grow corn for General Mills, and they found that they harvested better crops. They received a better price for their corn, and General Mills paid in cash. Next year, more farmers wanted in. Today, virtually every farmer in that community grows corn for General Mills. Our corn supply is more reliable, our products are much higher in quality, our business is more profitable, and the annual income of those farmers has increased 4-fold. So we would call that everybody won, and that is holistic value creation. Now, a big part of this idea is to look for innovative answers. In Africa, for example, we've found partners, created a nonprofit, and most importantly, tapped the expertise and the hearts of our employees to improve the food supply and strengthen rural economies in Africa. And this is one of those things where a short video is more than 1,000 words, so we're going to show that right now so you can just see a bit about what we've done with something that is now called Partners in Food Solutions.
Just like financial philanthropy, where we're giving dollars, we want to give our intellectual property. We want to give our knowledge and our skills in a philanthropic way with nothing expected in return to help make a difference for the people in need in Africa.
Partners in Food Solutions is a nonprofit organization funded by General Mills. It links the technical and business expertise of volunteer employees with small and growing food processors in the developing world. The goal is to improve those processors' capabilities to produce safe, high-quality, nutritious foods at affordable prices, while at the same time increasing the demand for the crops grown by the local farmers who supply those businesses. It all starts with a select group of African food technologists trained by General Mills. They help identify promising food processors and then match their technology and business needs with the expertise at General Mills and other food companies. More than a dozen partnerships are underway in Kenya, Malawi, Tanzania, and Zambia. Partnerships that involve over 300 employees from across General Mills, from research and development, engineering and nutrition, to marketing, finance, and more. In Malawi, Dr. Mark Manari and his project Peanut Butter are producing chiponde, a peanut butter-like paste that's saving the lives of malnourished children throughout the country. General Mills volunteers are helping to improve its storage and delivery systems, implement electronic tracking of ingredients, and improve packaging efficiency.
The beauty of what makes my partnership with General Mills really, something that accelerates is they understand food production, and so they're teaching me about problems that I haven't yet anticipated.
In Tanzania, Nyarifami produces flour from maize, wheat, bananas, sorghum, and millet.
I'm proud with the General Mills that they are trying to drive our thinking that not only money, that we should have money, then we can do something. But when you have the idea, then you can motivate your idea, you can move with the idea.
Nyarifami recently received the highest food quality certification available in the country, resulting in higher profits for the business as well as safer and more nutritious foods for consumers. In Zambia, Komako is growing a market for crops from more than 40,000 local farmers while also conserving wildlife. By processing and marketing maize flour, honey, peanut butter, and other products from ingredients sourced locally, Komako is supporting smallholder farmers who can now rely on the income they receive from Komako rather than poaching the local wildlife.
The help from General Mills has benefited Zambia and is continuing to benefit Zambia in more ways than one. We have created more jobs, and we are still continuing to create more jobs for the local people. It also means we will be able to supply our local markets with more products that we can say they are proudly Zambian.
The Partners in Food Solutions model of technology and knowledge transfer has won praise and support from leaders around the globe. In the next 5 years, the goal is to reach more than 200 Africa-based food companies that support millions of farmers. Join Partners in Food Solutions in helping to build a vibrant, local and sustainable food supply chain and a more secure future.
So that was, and this has been a journey of many years for us to try to figure out how we could make a difference there. We first concluded that there are only a handful of companies in the world who could really make a difference, in trying to build infrastructure in the food processing sector in Africa. And even though we don't have a big, strong boots on the ground business in sub-Saharan Africa, we did know, and we do know, that we have the technology and the capability. And so we spent, frankly, many years trying to figure out what we could do and how we could make a difference. And we came on this idea of directly transferring technology to these small companies, and we've done it now in partnership with USAID, providing aid from the American people. The Cargill company is one of our partners. Royal Dutch DSM, the largest ingredient supplier in the world, are a partner, and TechnoServe. And so the partners have come together, and the real magic ingredient here is the way we link everything back to our food technologists at our labs here in Minneapolis. And so it's been a very, very powerful experience for us. And I can tell you that the employees who are involved in Partners in Food Solution tell us this is the most gratifying thing they've done in their career. So you get to that, this is pure philanthropy, and is it good for business? I don't know, but I know that we've got 300 or 400 people at our labs at General Mills who are very grateful to us for giving the opportunity to give back in this way, and so we would consider this a very strong example of value creation. So I want to close now so that I can take some question, and just by noting that it's important to us that we have a very high profile here. We think that this is a very important part of what we do as an institution. We want to be seen as among the most socially responsible food companies in the world. And we know that when we say that that's our goal, much will be expected of us. Stakeholders will want us to engage and to show them, but our history, I think, absolutely shows us that this is the right course. This is how we build trust in the company, in our brands. We think that these activities build loyalty, strong loyalty and commitment among our employees to who we are and the company and our consumers. We think we need to do this and should do this to help sustain the resource base that we use. And this truly is the way that we fulfill, in a total and complete way, our mission of nourishing lives. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention, and I will take a few questions.
Started off just by asking, as you undertake some of these initiatives showing the holistic value creation and so on, do you find local competitors and or other multinational companies that want to adopt a similar approach to doing business? And if so, is there a synergistic kind of a virtuous cycle developing?
So I don't know if everyone heard, the question was, as we do these things, are other companies in our region interested in joining with us? Is this sort of thing a virtuous cycle? That's a great question. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. We talked about how it used to be a little simpler. The community was smaller. The businesses tended to be, here tended to be regional or national, and a handful of people could get together at the Minneapolis club and decide, to do things. The businesses now are global. CEOs are spending half of their time, outside the U.S., and so it becomes a bit harder, I think, to keep the leaders of, our companies knit together, in these kinds of efforts, which is why things, Ron and I were talking about this earlier, organizations like the Minnesota Business Partnership, or Itasca, or more recently, the Greater MSP, which is our 13-county metro area dedicated to job growth, which is pulling together a huge army of both public sector and private sector leaders. These things are very important, I think, to kind of keep this going. To be more specific, I will tell you that, for instance, partners in food solutions, we've been very gratified by the level of interest in that organization. Cargill joined us very early. As a company, we share very similar values with Cargill about giving back, and they jumped at the chance to not only put money in Partners in Food Solutions, but their R&D professionals are working on the ground now. As I mentioned, we have a European company who joined with us, and we're looking for other partners, but it seems like such a good idea. We're happy to share the wealth. There is sort of a virtuous cycle that you can create with these things.
Hi, Judy Samuelson with the Aspen Institute. That was fabulous. Thank you. My question has to do with connecting this back to both the demand for information from investors today and both
demand for information from investors,
and also kind of to what extent are elements of this story finding their way into how you talk to analysts, how you tell your story about the value you're creating? Is there demand for it? Would that have to just come from you? Are you starting to feel expectations on the other side?
Yeah, so that also is a very good question. And did you know they were going to? So it's I would say right now that I'd put it more in terms of negatives, but it's still, I have never been asked or challenged by any investor, and I meet with a lot of them over the course of the year, hundreds of meetings. It's very important that I do that. We've never been challenged by, why are you giving so much? That's our money. I've never had, if we're performing, then I think increasingly our investors understand that, especially for a company like General Mills, we make food products, branded products that people, feed to their families, their children. It's very important that we have that we are trusted, very highly trusted. And so they see our work to engage with communities. They see the other kinds of things that I've talked about here. And I think they understand that is very, very important work for us. And it's never been challenged. Increasingly, there is more positive interest coming from investors, particularly in the area of sustainability and the environment. Tell us about how you make your products. Tell us what's in them. Tell us about your organic food business. I mean, so I would say that is an area where increasingly, and particularly among, some of the analysts and portfolio managers that I meet with are 16 years old. No, actually, they're 30. But they are very very interested in how our corporate responsibility manifests itself in the way we make our products, what's in them, and that whole sort of the set of emerging consumer trends there. So I'd say it's moving, but I'm encouraged. I've never ever been challenged, on this spending. I think that investors understand that it's important for us to do. It's an important part of, building the values that we need to have as an institution.
Hi, Marielle here, and I have a question about when you first were going into these countries in Africa, what difficulties, challenges that you might have been faced as you met with the governments? Were the governments very open to an outside international company coming in, or were they kind of challenging?
Well, I think everyone could hear the question. The biggest challenge for us was to figure out how we could engage in the most effective way, and because again we have some businesses on the Mediterranean countries, the Middle East and the Lower Gulf. We have a small business in South Africa, but really where the challenges are and the opportunity to really improve the agricultural sector, we did not have boots on the ground. So, but that's where you need to make a difference, and that's where if you can create demand. And from all of these smallholder farmers who farm on, an acre to 2 acres, if you can create consistent demand there, I mean, the economic benefits are enormous. And so we just tried a bunch of stuff. I mean, we sort of admitted that we didn't know what we were doing, so we just started trying things. We engaged with different philanthropic partners. We worked with a number of foundations and associations. We worked in the agricultural area. And we worked in the food processing area. We worked a little bit in the retail area, and we gradually, through that work, realized that there was this place where we could make a huge difference, and it was the logical place in the end. We can make a difference in this small, emerging food processing sector, and once we realized that was home for us, we began to do marvelous work. We mapped the food processing sector in those 4 countries, and we're doing more of that now. We have the most complete understanding of every food company, in Kenya that exists today. And we started to invite these folks to seminars and meetings and conferences on, food processing and topics and how to do this better or that better. And we started to meet these people who are the most fantastic entrepreneurs you'll ever meet. I mean, they are just full of ambition. So that that idea that it was going to be those processors. Once we got onto that, we took off. Governments welcome it because of the economic benefits are so profound. When we can help an entrepreneur food company get on their feet and get going and create demand, so they've been very very welcoming. And our biggest challenge now is to figure out where to go next. How to increase our funding, but we're pretty convinced that the model is very powerful and works everywhere.
Probably have time for a couple of more questions. There's one here, then me.
Yes. Thank you. Great presentation. Similar related, I'm curious, C.K. Perholland and others started the conversation about the bottom of the pyramid and how much potential profit and growth and everything there is in learning to serve that market. Curious what you're learning, what's coming back, not just what you're delivering, but what's coming back in terms of General Mills learning that may lead to future products and generally add to competitive position.
Well, there's no doubt that we've learned a lot, through our engagement and the organization Partners in Food Solutions. And we're learning more about what are the middle of the pyramid products, if you will. What are the opportunities at the bottom of the pyramid? So it's been very good learning for us. And to be frank with you, I mean, as we've built our international business, because of the portfolio of products that we started with, they tend to be middle class, upper middle class products. So in China, for example, which is a very strongly emerging market now, but nevertheless we compete with very high quality frozen food products that we've developed there over the last 10 years, and they're very, very good, but they're also would still be out of reach for many Chinese consumers. But we're learning how to move down the pyramid. We just recently acquired a company in Brazil that's a very good match with our capabilities called Yoki Alimentos. They're a terrific company. Their products are very squarely targeted, at that solid middle class consumer in Brazil or lower. And so that will be a tremendous opportunity for us to learn more about, how do you really, build profitability in a business with those kinds of products. So we're learning. We're learning every step of the way. 10 years ago, General Mills' business outside the U.S. was less than $700 million. Today, it's over $5 billion. So we've gone fast. We've tried to learn fast, but we got a lot in front of us, and there's a lot more to learn. And your point will be an area of increasing interest for us.
Ken, thanks for the presentation. I noticed that on one of your slides, the Rainforest Action Network, which started off sharp and contentious and was brought to really productive fruition, unusually so. And I'd like to ask you about you as a leader. Every business, I think you can look at as an organization that has hierarchy and execution, but then every business is also a team that is led and regulated by culture. Can you describe how you operate as a leader culturally within General Mills to take enormously courageous moves like you did with Rainforest Action Network?
So everybody hear, I hope everybody heard the question, because I'm not sure. So I would, so General Mills has, I'll brag a little bit. General Mills has terrific people everywhere, and deep expertise across functions. And so as a leader, I concluded somewhere along the line in my career that, it wouldn't be very smart, not to really listen and encourage debate among these very, very talented people. So I would say that culturally our style is collegial. There's debate. At the end of the day, within my team, someone makes the decision, and that someone is me, and I'm very happy to do that. But I want ideas kicked around, and the best way to do that is to have very talented people who really know their areas of expertise, go at it. And so I would say that broadly is the culture, and we really want to put decision making and down at the lowest level that we can, and we want people to feel empowered to make decisions. I will tell you that the reason we got this jewel company in Brazil is because the guy who was running that business in Latin America felt totally free to go off and just find out everything that he could and court these companies over a long period of time, and he landed that. I mean, there's no way that I could have done that, and so I think that it's beneficial. For something like, the palm oil case, I mean, here I think you have to have a culture of engagement with your critics, because guess what? They might be right. Even though our first reaction, to be honest, I think the first reaction can often be, here they go again. I mean, they're picking on us. But the fact is, the world is changing. There are many new issues, and you have to engage with critics. And in the case of the palm oil Rainforest Action Network and palm oil, I think every company that has looked at that issue, and that would include most of the companies in our industry, have said, this deforestation, in this part of the world it just cannot be allowed to proceed, and we can play a huge role in stopping that. And so actually, you have the Consumer Goods Forum, which is the global organization that brings together, companies like General Mills Food Companies. Our number one sustainability plank is that we will not be responsible for any deforestation in these tropical regions of the world. We're going to find other ways to source palm oil because it's, I think the science and the facts tell you very quickly that that's what we have to do and that's what we should do. So you need to engage. Sometimes, sometimes you may not agree, but I think, in many, many instances, I look back over the last decade, I mean, when you look at the science, the case for change has been compelling, and we've changed as a result.
One more question. Go ahead, please, Bob.
I wanted to ask you about, thank you. I wanted to ask you about some of your retired executives. People retire, they're in good health, and they want to use their skills. And I've been doing that. I helped reestablish the apple industry in Lebanon and the Middle East, and in South Africa, the tomato industry. I don't know anything about that, but I could provide some management services. The sugar industry in Mauritius, and now I'm doing something in Vietnam. But there's so many retired people in good health that want to do it. Are you trying to engage or find ways to use retired people to have these skills? Thank you.
We are, and I have an organization that, if you haven't heard of it, you should check it out. General Mills is a founding investor of an organization called Your Encore. And so you can guess what Your Encore does. It is an absolutely fantastic organization, and what it does is it brings together retired professionals, retired scientists, chemists, engineers, you name it, and finds, and I would say rather easily, projects for these folks to work on. And General Mills has made a very high use of Your Encore because we got 2,000 great scientists in our labs, but we know that there are 2 or 3 million scientists, out there around the world. There's just no way that we can keep up with all the invention that's out there. And so we've used Your Encore, often specialists who grew up in completely different industries, to come into our labs and come into our plants, and look at very specific technical challenges that we have and say, take a shot at it, tell us what you think. And it has been a spectacular way for us to kind of reach out externally for invention through, as you say, a group of people who have tremendous experience and great energy, often from different industry, who can make a difference for us. So that is, Your Encore is an organization that I would encourage you to look at. It does exactly what you've said, and we've used it very, very profitably.
Ken, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.